I wonder exactly how many people have entered Riverwood over the years. Sitting below the iconic Bleak Falls Barrow where many a playthrough are cursed to end is this sleepy little town. There's a river, and there's wood. A simple name for a simple place. Welcome to Oddities. Here we take a look at some of my favourite details, moments and minutiae in games. So grab yourself a tea or a coffee and sit back as we explore together. Today we're here in Riverwood, the quintessential Skyrim settlement. This place has everything one could need. A blacksmith for arms and armour, the local trader to offload your goods, and an inn to fill your stomach and rest your head. This is not a place that expects you to stay for long. The people here are familial and close-knit. Only a few households working day to day to keep the town fed. This is a village that relies on the passerby, travelling between Whiterun and Helgen or Falkreath. On the western side of the village we can find its primary source of income, the iconic Sawmill, powered by this great water wheel. We can see it dripping as it turns. It's probably covered in pine tar to prevent rot, and kept constantly moving so it remains strong. Or maybe it was scorched slightly, carbonizing our resistance to time. We can hear its creaks and groans as it holds itself against the current, straining to carve the very wood it's made from. It looks like it connects to this huge gear within the mill, perhaps crafted by Alvor the blacksmith. Hod here works tirelessly to chop these great logs. One can imagine they're sent to Whiterun or beyond for the construction of houses or siege engines. With it being wartime, I'm sure he and Gerder have a mountain of orders to fulfill. Apparently Faendal here is helping out, but I watched him for 20 minutes and all he did was lean on this fence and wander about. He did chop some wood with his axe, but there's a stark difference between this log and the great trunks Hod is working. Maybe he and Hod venture into the woods with a two-person saw to fell the great pines and oaks in the surrounding lands. The river offers a nice way to float the logs back towards the town, to save their backs and time. I'm sure it took all hands on deck to stack these ones here. We have a grindstone at the back of the sawmill, likely to sharpen wood-cutting axes, or maybe a sword should wolves or bandits beset the town. I know there's a pack nearby on the way up to Bleak Falls Barrow. Beyond the mill, there's this nice little spot afore the river with two stumps, one crawling with ants. You can often find villagers sitting here, catching the fresh air or reading a book. It's a nice little place, affording a lovely view of the town and the road beyond. I'm sure the curious could park here and watch travellers coming in from Whiterun, or peer up at the barrow and imagine a life of adventure, far from the mundanity of this place. There's a covered, what I guess is a jetty, built over the water here. Maybe this rocky wall is where they stop the logs floating down the river. Or maybe it's just a nice fishing spot. There'd be plenty of salmon in these cool alpine waters, I'm sure. It's a good spot to reflect as the day draws to a close and the mill sits silent. This is Gerder and Hod's house at the opposite end of the town, near the eastern gate. It looks like they have a cow here munching on some hay. She's likely the town's source of dairy. Gerder already owns most of the town, so it's interesting that she owns the cow too. I'm sure a lot of money flows up to her. They own a chicken. It looks like it's left an egg for them to collect later. There's no roosters in the town, so she was probably purchased in the city or from a travelling farmer. Sneaking in, we can see it's a singular roomed house with a fireplace already roaring. Above sits a slaughterfish trophy. Maybe it was caught at that jetty we visited. It looks like someone has dinner already cooking in the pot, with its ingredients laying all over this table here. Slaughterfish and various vegetables. It looks like some kind of fish soup is on the menu tonight. The table's already set. It's good forethought to do so before starting their day. I'm sure after hours of chopping logs, Hod and Gerder would just want to sit down and have a nice meal that already sits prepared. There's some cheese as well. I wonder if they made it themselves with the milk from the cow outside, or if they purchased it. We have this cupboard with pots and pans and cups. I hope their top sliding drawer is filled with cutlery, as is the norm. This bed probably belongs to Frodnar, Hod and Gerder's son. It looks like he was reading a fairy tale, or maybe his parents read it to him before bed. We have this indoor bar here. A Nord always needs quick access to their ale. Funny that there's a soul gem under the counter. Do you think they know what this is? Maybe Frodnar found it at the bottom of the river and brought it here because it looked cool? I'm not sure if the regular citizen knows what a soul gem is. Let me know in the comments if this ever comes up in the lore, because I'm curious if Hod and Gerder know exactly what they have in their house here. We have Hod and Gerder's bed, an axe handy just below, ready to fend off any thieves of the night, but who would try and steal all of their things, right? Next to the sawmill, we have Alvor the blacksmith, this burly man here hard at work on his next project. He too, I'm sure, has plenty of demand at the moment. Already, he has some equipment on this table ready to sell. He has some wood beneath, probably to light the coals of the forge. If this trough is to douse his makes, I'd be a bit concerned because I'm pretty sure that's done in oil and this looks like water. But I trust Alvor, I'm sure he knows what he's doing. We have some raw ingots lying here ready to be crafted into arms and armour. I'm sure Alvor is relishing being able to make so many swords and axes during wartime. I'm assuming he's usually relegated to hinges and nails, or fixing Gerder's mill. There's a stool here on the front deck. You can often find Alvor's wife Sigrid here, watching the comings and goings of the town. It doesn't look like she's as active in the actual crafting process of the forge. Maybe she runs the business side, organising trades and contracts so her husband can focus on production. Within Alvor and Sigrid's house, we find it to be a double-storey dwelling. It looks like sleeping and eating occurs upstairs, while there's space for storage, crafting and drinking downstairs. They too have some dinner cooking above the fire. From what I can observe, it's either potato or salmon based. No axe under their bed, but we do have a shield, which can be a weapon in its own right. We have 2 impressive deer trophies above the dining table. They look huge, so I see why someone would want to show them off. Next to them we have some herbs drying, ready for whatever meal will be made tomorrow. Downstairs we find some arrows and a bow on this table here. Maybe this is what took down those deer. Or maybe Alvor and Sigrid trade in fletching too. It'd make sense. I don't see a fletcher in town, and someone needs to stock Faendal with all his arrows. There's a bar down here, but it looks like Alvor has transformed it into another workbench. Perhaps these armours are here to be cleaned or polished further. And this must be where they chop wood to keep the fire going, staving off the chilly Skyrim air. Across the street we have the Riverwood Trader, the local shop, run by the Valeriuses, Camilla and Lucan. It looks like they're having some trouble with a robbery or something, probably nothing important. Lucan here is tending the counter, offering us plenty of arms and supplies for our journey. He must be stocked by the farms of Whiterun and Falkreath, as well as other traders wandering through the region. Perhaps he has deals with Alvor and Gerder to sell their products too. Interesting that he has so many potions. There must be a local apothecary he trades with, perhaps Arcadia in Whiterun. Above the shop is their private room with a lovely dining table in the middle. It doesn't look like Lucan spends much time on recreation, his mind always on business. Next door we find the Sleeping Giant Inn, the local tavern, with Embry out the front, plastered as per. There's a bit of a standardization of the inns in Skyrim. Most share the same skeleton and layout. Perhaps there was one company who specialised in making inns who travelled the province, constantly making the same thing. Orgnar tends the bar here, plenty of food and drink on the counter waiting for hungry travellers. Below the counter sits an axe, I'm sure for unruly patrons. Delphine, the inn worker, wanders around taking care of this and that. She doesn't seem very important. Has a lot of books on dragons for some reason. And of course, no inn is complete without its bard. Sven here fits that role, plucking away on his lute or smacking a drum, regaling us with stories of Nordic heroes, transporting us from this ordinary place and into legend for a few verses, before we fall back into our drinks and memories. There's only 2 available rooms, so I'm assuming this is primarily an establishment for refueling rather than an extended stay. Sven lives here with his mother Hilda, taking care of her in her old age. This is the simplest house yet, just 2 beds and a fireplace. The dining table is full of odds and ends, not much space for homeliness. Finally, we have Faendal's house at the back of the village here. He's actually growing some produce. He seems like a guy who likes living off the land, so it makes sense that he provides much for himself. Within, we can already get a sense of his nature with the amount of hunting trophies on the wall. He has a troll skull under the bed. Maybe he's a lot braver than we thought, taking down one of these. His kitchen is chock full of goods awaiting the pot. Various hunted game and vegetables, a few fish and cheeses. It's not my place, but I think Faendal is probably a better option for Camilla than the guy who can't even keep his table clean. On the other table, of course, we find some weaponry and armour, a spare bow in case his current one is in need of repair, and extra arrows to loose into prey. A lot of Faendal's literature is about adventures and heroics. It can be assumed that he's trying to mimic the heroes of these tales somewhat, forcing a masculine ideal that he thinks he needs. It could be said that he's sacrificed friendship for this, as he lives alone out here, and none of the townsfolk tend to think of him too much. It seems Faendal is caught up in an image he wants to impose, which ironically is preventing him from forming a unique one to himself. And that's all the dwellings in the town, so let's do a little roundup. We have these defensive walls with balconies that overlook the roads. I know there's a bandit camp in a mine nearby, so these are useful for seeing any potential raiding parties coming. Alvor probably isn't happy about having the local mine overtaken. I wonder if it was worked before the bandits took it over, or if it had been abandoned. He doesn't seem to want for ore or ingots, so I suppose he has an avenue of supply unrelated. Of course, the aforementioned Bleak Falls Barrow visible from pretty much everywhere in the village. I'm sure the people of Riverwood have some ancestors buried up there who now stalk the halls, their old bones animated by cursed magics. We'd better take care of that when we can. There's these obelisks on the northern end of town on the path to the barrow, probably indicating some ancient path of reverence or remembrance, now sadly forgotten. There's no moss growing on them, so someone probably cleans them every now and then. These particular mushrooms were used in the reveal trailer for Skyrim Special Edition for some reason. And finally, the cart full of cabbage that sits in the sun, waiting for Lucan to hurry up and run them inside the shop. Thanks for watching. I love Riverwood as a town. It's such a nostalgic spot for so many, it being the introduction to the world and people of Skyrim. From here we can go into Whiterun, maybe help Lucan out with his robbery dilemma, or traipse off to find some more oddities. As always, let me know in the comments if there's any more spots in your favourite games that you'd like me to take a look at. Discuss your favourite Riverwood details or any I might have missed, and subscribe for the next one, where we'll be returning to the world of Halo. And I'll see you all later. Cheers.